Hello, hi. Uh, this is my fourth video. I'm going to show you what I've picked up recently in Japan. I picked up some really cool stuff, and I'm gonna basically run through it. It's a diary for myself as well. Picked up a lot of hardware this time, a fair amount of software, but just gonna give you the rundown and go through it. Spent about $40 in the past two or 3 weeks, so really just nothing. £25 roughly, €30 maybe, the equivalent of. So I'll just get straight to it. So I'll go through the software first, and then we'll see how we fare. So basically bought Super Mario Land 1 and 2 for the Game Boy. They were $1 each. If you played them, you'll understand why I bought them. They're not in the greatest condition, but they're just really great classic games for the Game Boy. Well worth getting, especially as Game Boy players for the GameCube are region free, I believe. I hope they are. I believe they are. So if I do get a Game Boy player, I can just play all the old Game Boy classics, which is great. And I've done it before on a GameCube in the UK, playing Game Boy Advance games like the Minish Cap and stuff like that, and it's brilliant to play them on a big screen. I don't know if anyone really agrees with me, but I love playing Game Boy Advance games on the Game Boy player. It's great. So yeah, got those two. Game Boy, on the theme of Game Boy games, got Tetris, the original one, for 55 yen. Really in decent condition. A game called Soccer for the Game Boy, again in decent condition. You see Game Boy games for 50 yen, you pick them up. You have to. Same with this Game Boy Color game, Yu-Gi-Oh, 50 yen, pick it up, buy it. And this one, this is a Famicom game, Yoshi's Cookie, which was $2 actually, but well worth it. As you can see, it's in really good condition and well worth the money. Who wouldn't pay $2 for that? If you're a gamer, you know what I mean. If you like buying games as well, don't you? So yeah, that was the Nintendo Game Boy games. On Nintendo, this is a game called Far East of Eden. This is an RPG for the Super Famicom. If you play ROMs, you might be familiar with the title. It's been speculated that it's going to be translated into English and put forward as a ROM, available to the general public, but it hasn't been translated yet. I think it's the last classic RPG, or regarded as the last classic RPG to yet be translated into English. And yeah, I play ROMs. I've got no hang-ups about it, especially if you want to play a lot of Super Famicom games that were never released in the West. You have to play ROMs. So Langrisser and Seiken Densetsu 3, and various other games. You're not going to be able to play them unless you pay some person $200 for a knocked off copy, which can be really good quality, but I'm not paying $200 to someone to sell me a ROM that they have no right to own just because they can make a nice shiny version of it. I'm not paying $200 for that when I can play it for free online. Yeah, it's great to have in my collection, but it means nothing to me really, because it's not an original, and what's the point? So yeah, ROMs have their places, and if people say, oh, don't use emulators, man, you have to buy the original, I disagree. There's some circumstances when ROMs are warranted. Certainly the original hardware is always best to have, always best to own, always best to play the original console. There's less glitches, it runs smoother, it feels better. And you're doing the whole industry a service by purchasing machines and the original hardware. Anyway, let's get back onto pickups. So this is Pokemon Stadium 2. This is the Nintendo 64 version. Well, there was only one version, but this is the Japanese version even, and it was. It's not very well sought after in Japanese as it goes. PS1 games, Puzzle Bobble 2, pretty decent game. People love Puzzle Bobble. I'm not a big puzzle game fan, so it doesn't really appeal to me. Bust a Move, the original Bust a Move, Japanese version, 55 yen. Puzzle Bubble was $1, by the way. There's tapping buttons at the right time, synchronized button tapping. I could think of nothing worse. It's like watching ballet or watching Michael Flatley do his little epic dance for 20 minutes. What's the bloody point? It's like Guitar Hero. Buy a real guitar, for fuck's sake. Okay, and Quantum Gate. This is a rather obscure title. It's like a cinema sort of game. I played it. I loaded it up on my new PS2, which you'll see in a sec. But I loaded this up, and it's a very odd, bizarre game. But it's got cinema graphics. 1995 release, so it came out the year that the PS1 was released. Which, if you see games that are released in 1995 for the PS1, always try to pick them up, even if they are not particularly rare or sought after. I believe personally that they will be eventually, because 1995 is the release date, obviously, and there are a lot of the long box versions in the USA that you're aware of, and there are a lot of great games from that era, and they're the breakthrough games. So they sort of trying to set the trend, maybe not pulling it off very well, but still they were trying to. So they were great games, and in the future they'll be defining games, and people are probably overlooking them at the moment, and I think that people should be looking at them as investments, and also industry changing games. Maybe not Quantum Gate, but but you know what I mean. There's games around that era that were released. ESPN Street Games. This is one of my favourite games. It's like Road Rash for the PS1, but it's like extreme games you play on skateboard and mountain bike, luge and rollerblades. It's great, incredible game. I love it to pieces. So that's all done. Last of the software. So let's go to Suikoden 1, Suikoden 2 and Suikoden 2, both 108 yen. So both $1, and then Suikoden the original. I've had this lot before, shown in another video, but I sold a pair for $30 because they're not worth very much, because they're in Japanese. Also, they're not worth very much here. They're worth $1. These are their sports titles, so these are in the bargain bucket all the time. Suikoden 2, can you believe it? They're in the bargain bucket all the time, which is kind of like KFC's equivalent, I suppose, of a week-old deformed chicken. So that's the software done. Let's move on to the hardware. The first piece of hardware that I'm going to go on to is the Sega Saturn Light Gun. I had one recently with Virtua Cop 1 and 2 games and House of the Dead, but I sold it on eBay for quite an amazing profit, actually, but I won't go into it here because it's a little bit personal. But this is the Sega Saturn Light Gun from that box set, I believe. There must be loads of it. Anyway, I paid 50 yen for this, but it's worth a lot more. It's worth at least $25. So it's a great find. But this is like, I can just pick this sort of stuff up every day. It's kind of ridiculous. So I got that. Next thing I got, my wife approached me in a second-hand shop when we walked in there. That's where I bought Yoshi's Cookie. And she said, "Hey darling, look what I found in the junk section." So she found this in the junk section. So I can't speak Japanese. I said, "Ask the staff, does it work or does it not work?" Because it was 100 yen. And I thought, what, $1? I'll buy it anyway. Of course I'll buy it for the case, because the case is in... mind you, I've just seen some bad scratches, but... yeah, the case is in pretty decent shape. Couple of horrible scratches, don't know. Yeah, you can see it just flashing in the light there down the side. But you know, $1, you're not going to leave it there, are you? But they had no cables, so they couldn't test it, so they stuck it in the junk section. So I have no cables either, so I don't know if it works. So we're all in the same boat there. But you're not going to leave an orange GameCube anywhere for $1. If it doesn't work, I'll open it up and I'll try to fix it. I don't have a soldering iron yet, but I know how to sort of troubleshoot electronics to a certain extent, so I'll give it a bash. Also, I bought in a different shop, the same chain of stores but a different store, I bought a blue metallic PS2 Japanese version, of course. There's lots of light scratches on the top. Someone's obviously kept stuff on top of it, but you know, it's an absolutely stunning PlayStation, and personally, it's like, for me, it's like one of the best consoles I've ever had. And I've had lots of nice consoles, but that's just like up there. I mean, PS2 was a defining console. The fact that it could play the back catalogue of PS1 games was just an amazing bonus. And I probably played more PS1 games on my PS2 than I did PS2 games, because the PS2 games felt slightly too complicated for me at that time. Now they're slightly less complicated because of the era that we're in now, the complicated games that we're given. So that was all of that hardware. Oh, also the pad that it came with, which is in my other video about repairing this. This was dirty. This had a pubin and a hair, really long hair. I don't know how the fuck that shit got in there, but obviously someone had opened it up, maybe, or they were fucking it. I don't know what happened, but yeah. Opened it up, cleaned it up. The buttons work perfectly now. They're so smooth. It's really, really, really clean. I've cleaned inside and out. I've cleaned every single part of this. Even cleaned the screws to go back in there. But a yellow controller is really hard to come by. So I got that with the blue PlayStation for $32, 3,200 yen. So really happy with that acquisition, because that's one of my favourite things that I've picked up in this country, I reckon. Blue metallic PlayStation 2. Not that rare internationally, but in Japan, I don't think there's that many of them. So today, this is probably what inspired me to make this video today. So it was, I only had $10 in my pocket, and it's probably the $10 I got for the week. Obviously I got food and stuff, but it's like $10 spending money, if you like. So I went into the local game shop, Book Off again, which is the discount game shop, and I was looking on the top shelf like any good man does. It's on the top shelf always. I was eyeing some bargains, and I thought, hello, what's that? Is that a Xbox Dead or Alive 3 arcade stick for 500 yen? It was marked up at 500 yen is $5. I was like, what the fuck? How could anyone sell that for 500 yen? I mean, it was ridiculous. So I quickly did a quick search on eBay, as you would. Like, I mean, I didn't think that it was worthless, but I was just like, you know, when your heart flutters and you think, bloody hell, that shouldn't be there for $5. It was. So obviously, just wanted to double check. I was going to pick it up regardless, because it was a arcade joystick, and I love arcade joysticks. Who doesn't? It reminds everyone of the playing in the arcades when you're younger, or watching other people play them because you didn't have $1 or £1 to put in the machine at the time. So yeah, here it is. Anyway, it's in really good condition. Comes with all the inserts. The plug on the top is like next to brand new. Bit dusty on the back actually. Couple of scratches on the console itself, but it just looks like a stunning piece of equipment. What's that? There's a bit of rust or something. That's not great, but there's a little bit of a scratch on the bottom. But you know, for $5 for a Dead or Alive 3, there's none on eBay actually. There's nothing to cross-reference it with. Not that I care really, because I don't really care how much it's worth. It's just a quality piece of equipment, and it's indisputable really. I mean, it's incredible that it can sell for $5. Xbox, so it plugs in. I'm just really happy with the acquisitions that I've made in the past 3 weeks, and this is one of the best. But my blue PlayStation is definitely the tip of the iceberg. I love it, so I'm very happy with the acquisitions that I've had. And if you like it, then like the video and watch more. But there'll be plenty more where this came from, so thanks for looking and take care. Bye bye.